The timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. I am your host at Scotty Drown. You can find me on all social media platforms by that username right there. Of course, you should know by now. If you don't, we are presented to you by DSM Media. So that's where all of my shows will be aired live on. Yes, we are live today. I know I haven't been live the last couple shows. But nonetheless, wanted to come to you guys in person today, get the viewers involved. If we have any comments coming through, if you have any thoughts, be sure to share them. Don't mind me looking away from the screen. I'm just sharing the show out, making sure everybody has access here. But nonetheless, we got a lot of stuff to get into as far as the NBA and what's been going on lately. Of course, we're going to start with a recap, as we do, of the previous night. From now on, I guess I should announce this just to keep everybody on a straight line here. I'm changing my show times because obviously, if you follow my show, you know I've been moving my show times around a lot. A lot of it was due to the Super Bowl, being caught up in the Eagles going to the Super Bowl, that long playoff run. Just didn't have a ton of time to get things in where I wanted to do them. So we're moving the show time to Fridays at 3 p.m. Until further notice. That is when we're going to air Scotty Talks NBA. Just works with my work schedule. I feel it works better with the NBA just because you're at the end of the week, the weekdays, right? And so you can recap basically everything that's transpired over the last week. I look at it as a better opportunity to do that. Aside from that, I'm going to be doing 2 shows a week from now on with the NBA being in full stream. Obviously, the NFL has ended. I only cover the NFL and the NBA. So I'm going to shift over to the NBA. I'm going to dedicate my time that I spent on the NFL strictly to the NBA. We're going to do 2 shows a week. One will be permanently on Fridays at 3 p.m. The other is just going to be very random throughout the week, depending on what big news drops, whatever the Sixers are doing. A lot of different things are going to factor into that second episode that airs on the week. But nonetheless, we will be doing 2 a week from here on out. But lock it in Fridays at 3 p.m. from here on out as well, guys. But thanks for tuning in, everybody that checks in. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for DSM Media. Along with recap for last night's action, obviously we had the Mavs and the Sixers squaring off. That was a big game last night. We'll get into all 4 games that transpired last night. We're going to get into updated power rankings. Got to let you guys know where I stand with all the teams in the NBA, my top 10 teams, that is. And then we're going to talk about the Mavericks. Obviously, the Mavericks, they showed up last night against the Sixers in high-scoring fashion, I guess you could say. We're going to talk about the Mavericks. Are they legitimate contenders in the Western Conference, in the NBA as a whole? We're going to take a look, kind of do a little deep dive on the Mavericks since Kyrie has arrived. And then finally, we're going to spend some time talking about the LA Clippers, their struggles. Should Tyronn Lue be on the hot seat? It's funny, being a Philly fan, there's still people that talk about Tyronn Lue and should we have picked him over Doc Rivers. And mind you, I'm not going to backtrack and say that we shouldn't have picked Tyronn Lue over Doc Rivers. Maybe he would be better with the Sixers, but he is struggling to get this Clippers team where they are supposed to be with the talent level on that roster. We're going to talk about that. And then finally, I just want to talk briefly about KD's debut against the Hornets the other night. Take a look at the Suns, what they're doing with KD, how that's going to look going forward. So we got a lot to get into. Let me start here. Got to shout out our sponsors over at Gents Barber Lounge. Be sure to check out gentsbarberlounge.com. As you know, DSM Media is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of the 2 great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft, and it shows rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp and in the Philadelphia area. Multiple award-winning barbers and being able to handle any style of cut, adult or kid. Take a look at some of Gents' work here. Honestly, I love that clip because you get to see Lane Johnson's nice, beautiful, shining bald head. But nonetheless, go check out gentsbarberlounge.com. Book your appointment in Fishtown or Old City today. And of course, shout out to our other sponsors over at luxidinjewelers.com. Just luxidin.com. Use code DSM at checkout for 25% off and free shipping off of any jewelry selection of your choice. With that being said, all the house cleaning is taken care of. Let's get into the content from last night. We had the Sixers visiting the Mavs. That was the biggest game of the night for me. Obviously, I'm a Sixers fan, but I think it was the best game of the night as a whole. You did have the Dallas Mavericks up by 25 at one point throughout this game. They had an explosion at the beginning of the third quarter. Air balloon that lead all the way up to 25 at one point. But nonetheless, the Sixers were able to come back, make it a close game by the end of the game. But they fell short. 133 to 126 win for the Dallas Mavericks. In this game, you had Luka and Kyrie just absolutely going off. They combined for 82 points between the two. You had 42 points, 12 assists, 7 for 13 from the three-point line for Luka. For Kyrie, you had 40 points, 6 assists, 6 for 8 from the three-point line. Mind you, Kyrie has not been shooting the three-point ball very well of late. Of course, he found it against my Sixers. Nonetheless, you look at the rest of the game. You had Reggie Bullock, 15 points, 5 for 10 from the three-point line. So he did his number from the three-point line. The Mavericks as a whole did their thing from the three-point line. It was actually ridiculous and annoying to watch as a Sixers fan because it's just 3 after 3 in that game last night. On the Sixers side, you had Tyrese Maxey still finding his way back, but nonetheless back in that starter role, looking good. That's 2 back-to-back games where Tyrese Maxey has looked like himself. 29 points, 3 for 5 from the three-point line. Embiid didn't play bad in this game. I don't think the Sixers played bad in this game, aside from the defensive end of the ball. You had Embiid with 35 points, 8 rebounds. He shot 13 for 21 from the field. It was an efficient night. James Harden, 27 points, 13 assists. He was 5 for 7 from the three-point line. Only took 12 shots last night, had 27 points. So the Sixers were efficient. Like, they did what they had to do. They actually shot the ball better than the Mavericks as a whole. They shot 57.7% from the field. Mavericks shot 54.9%. So as a whole, the Sixers played a pretty decent game. They got up to 126. It wasn't a bad offensive matchup for the Sixers. It was just on the defensive end of the ball. They could not stop Kyrie from penetrating. They couldn't stop him from shooting outside. Once he penetrates, he's getting guys wide open on the three-point line. We know how deadly the Mavericks can be, especially at home from the three-point line. Just to emphasize that a little bit further, let's take a look at the team statistics as a whole. You look at the free throw matchup. Philly wins that. You look at the field goal percentage. I already mentioned Philly wins that. Rebounding battle. Philly wins that 37 to 31. Turnover battle. Dallas wins that by 1 turnover, 13 to 14. But right here, once you get into three-point percentage, three-point percentage isn't too far widespread. 52.1% for Dallas, which is ridiculous. But Sixers were sitting at 44.4%. So they were shooting 44% from the three-point line as well, which is really good. The major difference, it lies in the three-pointers made because they simply take more three-pointers than the Sixers. This is something I harped on at the right after the All-Star break, I should say, about the Sixers. One of the most efficient three-point shooting teams in the league, but they do not shoot the three-point ball enough. Not enough to beat some of these other teams that just, when they shoot lights out, you don't shoot as many threes. It's going to be hard for the Sixers to win those games nonetheless. Three-pointers made, you had Dallas 25 for 48 from the three-point line. It was 1-3 away from their franchise record for threes made in one game. On the other side, you had the Sixers shooting 12 for 27, so 13 less three-pointers made. You think about 25 threes. That's 75 points alone right there. 25 threes, 75 points alone. You combine that, obviously the threes are calculated into what Luka and Kyrie did heavily. 82 points from 2 players. So 75 points from threes, 82 points from 2 players. Doesn't sound like a night where the Sixers are going to win unless those 2 players are the Sixers players. Mind you, I told you about the trio, what they did, Harden, Embiid, and Maxey. They did their thing. There's just not much more you can do on the offensive side of the ball. Will the Mavericks do that every single night? I I can't say that. That's ridiculous, right? They're not going to be on their home court every single night. They obviously shoot a lot better at home. They're not going to be on their home court every night, which means they're not going to shoot like that. It's honestly ridiculous. Like I said, the 7 for 13 from the three-point line for Luka, he usually just doesn't even shoot that many threes. Kyrie, 6 for 8 from the three-point line. He just hasn't been shooting that well of late, but maybe they turn the tide against the Sixers. We will find out. The one thing that I wanted to point out just about this Luka and Kyrie, this Luka and Kyrie pairing, 2-5, right? They were 1-5 going into this game. Leave this game 2-5 since Kyrie has arrived. Mind you, this is when Kyrie and Luka are both on the court. The first, I believe, couple games that Kyrie was there, Luka was not on the court. They actually did gather some wins there because Kyrie is 4-4 since he's arrived. But nonetheless, you look at the concerns. The Sixers don't make enough threes after this game. That's the blaring obvious takeaway for me, I have to say. And then you look at the other side of it. They can't defend stretch bigs. That's a problem as well. You saw it early on with Christian Wood. Maxi Kleber came in. He hit a 3 or 2 in this game. And those are the difference in close games, right? Nah, Mark. Hey, you right in time with that comment, Mark. No, I'm not taking it off. We're getting a nice rhythm to us. My man, John Shire, I believe, is 15-0, 16-0 at the Cameron Indoor Stadium. Mind you, March Madness won't be played at Cameron Indoor, but it's a good start to the 2023 year, and I'm expecting Duke to make some noise. Watch out. They're a nice sleeper team this year. They're not the blue blood that they've been of past years. But no, I'm not taking the hat off, Mark. Not taking it off. Let me check the other comments here. How Victor Wembanyama is supposed to be selected first in the draft, and in Europe, he is a low-level player. Was a substitute player in a weak team in the EuroLeague. How do you explain that? Hey, there's not much to explain in that, right? I heard I forget who it was saying he's playing in some weak league over in Europe. I can't remember exactly which league it is. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Victor. I know he's undersized. I know that's kind of the big thing that's being talked about, his size. How's he going to match up with centers in the NBA? We'll see, right? The game is changing, right? And it's something, I think this is a great point to bring up with this comment, is the Embiid concerns. There's Embiid concerns going around Philly. I'm not somebody that holds them right now. I take that back. I'm holding a slight concern about Embiid in Philly with the Sixers. I'm holding a slight concern. There's been a lot of talk about, should the Sixers move on from Embiid? Should they trade him? Should they blow this thing up? Obviously, the talk about Harden going back to Houston, PJ Tucker talking about he wanted to stay with the Miami Heat. Should the Sixers trade Embiid at the end of the season? I don't even like that this is being talked about right now after a 133-126 loss to the Dallas Mavericks. This should not even be talked about right now. It is one game out of 82. Yes, they're 2-3 since the All-Star break. Yes, they have had heavy competition. Just think about their schedule of late. They played on Monday, day off. They played on Wednesday, day off. Played on Thursday. They played on Monday, day off. They played on Wednesday. Then they played on Thursday. Now a day off. They're going to play the Bucks tomorrow in Milwaukee. Then they play on Monday again. And then on Tuesday, another back-to-back. So, the schedule is ridiculous right now. The level of competition. Why are all the playoff teams at the end of this season for the Sixers? It's a matter of bad luck as far as having these guys, just combined into this last 25-game stretch for the Sixers. But nonetheless, they got to take care of business. They do have to be better. I'm not saying that. I just don't think we need to jump to crazy conclusions. Saying the Sixers team is the same, saying the Sixers team is different. We don't know yet until the playoffs, but all we can do is look for the positives that they are showing. One, last night, Maxi's back, right? Maxi's back in form. He's playing the way he's supposed to. You look at the other side of things, the bench. The bench was actually okay last night. They played well. They outperformed Dallas's bench. That's why the Sixers were able to get back into it. So you got to look at the positives here and just look at it this way. Sixers were down 25 in the third quarter. They get the doors blown off of them at the beginning of that third quarter. 3 after 3 after 3. It's demoralizing to have that happen to you. And they bounced back. You saw it at the beginning of the fourth quarter. They went on a 15-0 run, bounced back, made this game a game. You got to commend them for something sometimes. It's too much when they lose, you're loud as hell, and when they win, you're quiet as hell. It's too much of that. And that's where, I just can't deal with that type of pessimism. One game. It's one game out of 82. It's against two stars in Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic that played at their absolute ceiling, right? I'm not saying they can't score more in one game to game, but you talk about a ceiling for two players playing together on the same team. You can't ask for much more than 40 points each, let alone the assists and the efficiency that went along with it. Luka Doncic won the MVP title as the youngest player in EuroLeague, and then European champion with Slovenia was selected only third. It's interesting, right? Luka Doncic, he doesn't have the frame that you generally like for the NBA, but does it matter? Not in my eyes, obviously. But when Bayana, you look at him, that's the frame that everybody covets. Chet Holmgren, right? Everybody was talking about taking Chet Holmgren over Paolo Banchero. Based on what? Based on what? Paolo Banchero went head-to-head in college against Chet Holmgren and cooked him. But yet people wanted Paolo Banchero to go behind Chet. I never agree with that. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a Duke fan. But that's just one example of that slim body frame. And you see what happened to Chet. He's injured already. I'm not saying that that's going to be how his career pans out. But that long, lengthy, thin, can fill in his frame at some point. Look at Giannis. He came into the league similar. But everybody's not Giannis. And I think that's what everybody needs to realize with this Victor Wembanyama. There's a lot of pressure on him coming out of that draft. But great question. I appreciate you giving the context here as well with Luka Doncic, because I honestly, this is a good point. I need to keep up with the international leagues as much as I keep up with international football. So great point. I'm going to start taking a look at some Victor games here soon, nonetheless. But thanks for the comments, nonetheless. Yes, Duke is on fire, but this is an NBA show, nonetheless. Excellent addition to Dallas. Yeah, to say the least, it's better than anything they had. They let Jalen Brunson go, then you go and trade for Kyrie. I can't say it. I can't oppose that. We'll talk about the Mavericks a little bit more later. I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive just to talk about if they are real contenders. But just wanted to talk about that Embiid conversation. There's no need to talk about it right now. I get it. It's a conversation for when they do get bounced in the second round again. Then we can have that convo, and maybe I'll agree with you by then. The only concern that I would lay as far as the Sixers being led by Embiid, can Embiid get them over the hump? This league is dominated by wings, athletic, lengthy wings that get out, run in transition, high-paced basketball, get threes up, right? We saw that last night. The Sixers don't shoot enough threes. Can you win with the center as your best player? I don't know. It hasn't happened in a long time. I know I'm trying to think back of recent history. You had the Lakers win it recently. That was the Disney championship, they say. But Anthony Davis was a big part of that. He's a big man, but he's kind of an outlier. He does a lot of other things as well. And on top of that, you had LeBron James on that team. So it's kind of different. You could argue that Anthony Davis wasn't even the best player on his team. I do believe he was the best player in the playoffs, though, if we're being honest, in that finals. But that's a conversation for another day. Can a team win a championship with the center as a vocal point? You see it with Jokic. He hasn't won anything. You see it with Embiid. He hasn't won anything. These are two of the best players in the NBA, yet you never have seen them on the biggest stage in the NBA finals. That's a question mark. That's something I have to ask myself. What do I truly believe? Because from a basketball standpoint, non-Sixers fan, I believe the best way to play in today's age is getting a lot of threes up, running a fast-paced offense, and having athletic wings that can guard the perimeter and block shots. That is an optimal NBA team, in my opinion, and that's the exact opposite of what the Philadelphia 76ers are. So it remains to be seen, to be determined nonetheless. But let's just stop that conversation right now. They have a top 5 record in the NBA as of right now, and that has to account for something, right? It has to account for something. If it doesn't mean anything to you, then just stop watching until the playoffs. It's fine. You don't have to invest into every game. I'm blown by this loss because I picked the Sixers to win. I laid some money on it. That's why I'm blown about the Sixers loss. But other than that, it's not a bad loss. It's out of conference. You most likely will not see that team, even if you made it to the NBA Finals. Why worry about that loss? Nonetheless, let's move on. We had the Raptors visiting the Wizards. I'm not going to spend as much time on this game, obviously. In this game, Raptors take the L on the road against the Washington Wizards, 108-119. OG Anunoby, 26 points, 4 for 9 from the three-point line. Jakob Poeltl, he had 23 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists. Kyle Kuzma was the star in this one, 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Kristaps Porzingis, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks. Bradley Beal, 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Something I wanted to point out about this game, because it sticks out to me like a sore thumb out of this game. Bradley Beal, a -8, a game low -8 for the Washington Wizards. Everybody else in the starting lineup was in plus territory. There's been a lot of talk about how the Wizards play when Bradley Beal is there and how they play when he's not there. This was a glowing example. It's just one game. It's a glowing example of why that there is an argument to be had there, right? That's all I wanted to say about it, quite honestly. It's just a little eye-opening when you see Bradley Beal as the only starter on the Washington Wizards with a negative output. Nonetheless, Toronto 7-3 in their last 10. They take the L here. Washington, they get their second straight win as they try to play for a spot in the play-in tournament. Let me see here. See the comments. Past the United States national team would easily beat European teams. Today, it will be difficult for them to beat B-level teams, and I'm not talking about Spain, Slovenia, France, Serbia. Hey, I'm not going to argue with you there either. You talk about France. If they're able to get Embiid to come over and play for France, I mean, it's going to be a little ridiculous. Him and Gobert, and not to mention the other talent they have there. Spain, yeah, I mean, they speak for themselves. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's crazy how international basketball is changing. It's just getting more popular in other countries, and you love to see it. That's why I need to do my part and make sure I've researched these other countries' leagues, because I need to know what's coming into the NBA, obviously. So I appreciate all the intel. Keep feeding the comments in. I love it. I love learning, is what I should say. The next game we're looking at, the Pacers at the Spurs. This one's not too interesting. Had the Pacers losing this one 99-110. Spurs get the W. Only guy that showed up for the Pacers, Buddy Hield, 27 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. On the other side, you had a rookie, Jeremy Scohen, 22 points, 13 rebounds. Devin Vassell, 18 points, 8 for 15 from the field. No Tyrese Halliburton in this game. Nonetheless, this is a Pacers team that is also trying to fight for a play-in spot, but without Tyrese Halliburton, I don't expect them to do much. He does a lot for that team. Nonetheless, good win for the Spurs. Is it a good win? They're one of those teams that are clamoring over Victor. So, once again, great point there with the comments. Final game of the night. We only had 4 to go over. We had the LA Clippers at the Golden State Warriors. LA Clippers just continue to fall. That's why I want to talk about Tyronn Lue being on the hot seat. We'll get to that after the power rankings. But nonetheless, Kawhi Leonard in this game, 21 points, 7 rebounds. He was a -24 in this game. That was the lowest point of the starters. Eric Gordon, 16 points, 2 for 3 from the three-point line. PG-13. Man, this guy is getting tore up in the media and in social media for his comments about him admitting he can't be the best player on a championship-winning team. I don't really know how to feel about that. I appreciate the authenticity, honestly, but do I want a player like that on my team, being one of the best players on the team? No. I want a guy that goes out there and thinks he's the best on the court every single time. He doesn't even think he's the best player on his team. That's fine. You can give respect to Kawhi. You can give respect to whoever you want on your squad, but have some confidence in yourself. You are a guy that has taken your team to the Eastern Conference Finals before, right? So you can lead a team. Maybe not at this point in your career, but just no need to say that in reality. He thinks that other stars need to do that. Damian Lillard, sure. I don't think it's Damian Lillard that needs to realize he can't lead a team to a championship. I think that he needs to realize that he can't lead a team to a championship in Portland. That's the key. That I don't think there's some learning lesson from Paul George in this. Aside from the shitty play that he's been giving out, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 for 15 from the field. Unacceptable. Not to mention Russ Westbrook and this whole mess they got. Last night, you saw Draymond Green. He was standing like 10 feet back from Russ at the three-point line. At that point, Russ, shoot the goddamn ball. It doesn't matter if you miss. Shoot the goddamn ball. You're wide open. Guess what? 3-point attempts, if they miss, it's usually a long rebound. Might just pop right back to you. You can drive in the lane and do whatever the hell you want. I don't know. You just can't play on a team when a player is getting treated like that and not doing anything about it. That's the problem. I hate what has happened to Russ with his confidence and the way he's just destroyed in the media. It's kind of made me sick over the last years or so. I've never been a huge Russ fan per se, but I just think he gets a lot of unfair treatment for a first ballot Hall of Famer that he is. But nonetheless, look at the Warriors on this one. You had Jordan Poole go off in this game, 34 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Klay Thompson, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. Klay Thompson getting on the boards. Love to see that. He's starting to get his legs back, right? He's starting to look a little bit more comfortable. Jonathan Kuminga, another second-year player here, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. He does a lot of everything, right? You talk about Andrew Wiggins, who's missed a lot of time this year. It's given Jonathan Kuminga a lot of time to grow since they play in similar roles. Clippers, this is their 4th straight loss. I said they keep falling. The Golden State Warriors, this is their 4th straight win. Mind you, Steph Curry is not playing right now. He should be back this month. But nonetheless, the Warriors are finding ways to stay afloat. Hate what the Clippers are doing. They play some ugly basketball, too. If you ever get a chance to watch them, I know they're mostly late-night games. They play some really, really ugly basketball. Nonetheless, let's get into the updated power rankings. I don't have a nice little graphic for you today. We weren't able to get that prepared in time, but nonetheless, let's get into it. We're going to start from 10 to 1. I'll start with the Golden State Warriors, a team we just talked about. They're 33-30. They've won 4 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10. You look at what the Warriors are strong at. They're top 10 in points per game, so they're one of the best offensive scoring teams. They're second in scoring in the NBA. They're the 10th best rebounding team, so they hit the boards pretty hard, and they're the best team in assisting buckets. So they move the ball around. They're a great offensive team. The key for them is the defensive side of the ball, obviously. They have to build some consistency there. But right in time, we're getting close to the playoffs. They're playing some better basketball. Maybe they're turning it up a gear. Steph should be back soon. Nonetheless, Warriors come in at number 10. Number 9, I have the Sacramento Kings. I've caught a lot of heat over the last weeks not having the Kings in my power rankings. I was going from a more holistic standpoint, but now I got to give some respect to the Kings. They're playing lights out. You look at the Kings right now, I believe they are the 3rd seed in the West. Let me just fact check that really quick. I believe they do have the 3rd best record in the West. Yep, 3rd best record in the West. They are currently 36-25. They've won 4 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Top 10 in points per game. They're the best scoring team in the league. They're 1st in points per game. In assists per game, they are 3rd. So they're one of the best passing teams in the NBA as well. They're an offensive juggernaut. Where it's going to come down to is defense for them, obviously. Sabonis, not a great defender, right? The big man inside. So we're going to have to see what they can do in the defensive end of the ball. But nonetheless, they can score with the best of them. Number 8, I have the New York Knicks at 37-27. They are currently the 5 seed in the East, right below the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've actually won 7 in a row. They're playing some really, really good basketball. 9-1 in their last 10. They're top 10 in rebounds per game. They're 3rd. And opponents' points per game, they're 7th. So they're one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. They rebound the ball well. That's going to be their calling card. Obviously, Jalen Brunson's played out of his mind. Dallas, you have to regret that. I get you got Kyrie now, but Jalen Brunson can do similar things. He's not Kyrie Irving. I'm not saying that. He can do similar things scoring the basketball. You could have had him. He's younger for a lot longer time, I should say. Let me use the correct grammar there. Number 7, we have the Phoenix Suns. I believe this is a team that's just going to move up and up and up. I imagine they'll be in the top 3 by the end of the season. But Right now, Phoenix Suns are 34-29. They are the 4th seed in the West, so they've moved their way up. Nonetheless, 7-3 in their last 10. And they've actually won one since KD has debuted, I should say. They're top 10 in rebounds per game. They're 9th. Assists per game, they're 4th. No surprise there with Chris Paul. Opponents' points per game, 4th. So they're a top 5 defensive unit as well. KD's only going to add to their offensive output, right? Got to give some credit to the Phoenix Suns. They're getting healthy. They also add KD. They're going to be a juggernaut in the league, a legitimate contender. Number 6, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers at 39-26. They have lost 1. They're 6-4 in their last 10. It's a team that has some room to grow, but nonetheless, they have played really good basketball this season. They're first in defensive opponent points per game, I should say, which makes them the best defensive unit in the NBA. It's interesting because obviously you have Evan Mobley, Jared Allen in that middle of those defensive anchors. They can both block a ton of shots. And then you have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland on the outside who can score the lights out. As I mentioned all year, my concern with them even being the best defensive team in the league, when you get to the playoffs, matchups. It's all about matchups in the NBA. I hate having 2 short guards in the backcourt when you're talking about it from the defensive standpoint. But nonetheless, Cleveland, give them some credit. 39-26, 4th in the Eastern Conference right now, playing some good ball. Number 5, I have the Memphis Grizzlies at 38-23. They're currently the 2nd seed in the West behind the Denver Nuggets. They've won 3 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10. This Memphis Grizzlies team is top 10 in points per game, rebounds per game, and opponents' points per game. So they're one of the best scoring teams. They're one of the best defensive teams, and they're one of the best rebounding teams, 2nd in the league at that rate. I think they're going to get better as the season goes on as well. They've had a couple guys that are in and out. They'll get Steven Adams back, kind of bring that toughness back inside, and the veteran leadership, right? So I like what Memphis is doing. They're one of the best teams in the West. They're just staying afloat there. Number 4, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. I know they lost last night. I don't want to say they got exposed, but definitely just something to watch out for, right? The 3-point shooting and giving up 3-pointers. Not only that, but shooting enough yourself. But nonetheless, Sixers right now, 3rd in the Eastern Conference at 40-22. Obviously losing one last night. They're 6-4 in their last 10. The only thing that they are top 10, top 5 in is opponents' points per game. So they're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. They are one of the worst rebounding units in the NBA. They will get better as Harden and Maxey stay in the lineup. They missed a lot of time, which would result in them with the lower offensive output. But nonetheless, Philly, they beat some tough teams in the recent, right? They were able to beat the Heat after they lost to them. They were able to beat the Grizzlies last week. They've just had some close games that just haven't went their way. That's something they got to fix, but I'm not too worried about this team. They still have a top 5 record. They're still top 3 in the East, and that's all you can ask for. Coming in at number 3, this is kind of where the gap exists, right? You talk about, we couldn't see it maybe a few weeks ago, and I was talking about, gaps in between tiers of teams. I would say Philly, Memphis, Cleveland, Phoenix right now are in the 2nd tier. In the 1st tier, you're going to have Denver, Boston, and Milwaukee, right? And that's just how my power rankings are segmented out here. But I think there's a gap in between Denver and Philly right now. Mind you, last time they played, Philly did beat Denver, but that was maybe a month ago at this point. Nonetheless, you can't hold that against Denver forever, right, to put them below Philly. They have a better record than the number 1 seed in the West. Jokic is playing out of his mind right now. You look at the Denver Nuggets, 44-19. They've won 2 straight, 7-3 in their last 10. They're top 10 in points per game and assists per game, so they're an offensive juggernaut. Once again, the only thing you worry about with the Denver Nuggets once they get to the playoffs is, 1, can they win with the center as the vocal point of their team? 2, can they defend? That's what it's going to come down to for the Denver Nuggets. Can you defend when everything becomes matchup-based and they start attacking Nikola Jokic in the pick and roll? Number 2, we have the Boston Celtics, 45-18. They've won 1 straight. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Top 10 in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, and opponents' points per game. They're top 10 in everything because they're one of the best teams in the NBA. They're 4th in scoring, 8th in rebounding, 7th in assists, 9th in opponents' points per game. So top 10 unit, offense and defense. And then number one, the hottest team in the NBA right now. And it's taken a while for them to dethrone the Boston Celtics, but nonetheless, they have done it. The Milwaukee Bucks are 45-17. They have won 16 straight games. Mind you, Giannis, let's see the last time Giannis played. Give me 1 second here. So Giannis, last time he played was on March 1st again. So he did play in their last game nonetheless. But before that, he hadn't played since February 28th against Brooklyn. 28 minutes. Okay, so it was against the Heat where he went out early, I'm guessing. Yeah, with the 4 points. Okay. So nonetheless, he's been back for the last, 3 games, it looks like? 2 games, excuse me. So he's been back for the last 2 games. Nonetheless, they've won 16 straight with Giannis missing time in between there. Obviously, getting him back changes their fortunes a lot. I don't expect them to slow down. I believe they play the Nets. No, they play the Sixers tomorrow. Excuse me. The Nets play the Celtics tonight. That's where I was getting confused. The green teams. Nonetheless, Milwaukee, they're at the top of my power rankings here. They're top 10 in rebounding and defense. So one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. But nonetheless, 16 straight wins. You got to give them a hand clap for that. I hate the Bucks, but nonetheless, got to respect it. They just play with a winning mentality. It doesn't matter who's in the lineup. They go out there, they try to get it, which is why they're number one in the Eastern Conference right now, number one in the NBA as a whole. Those are going to round out my top 10 power rankings. Just to give you guys an idea of who just missed it. So we'll run it down one more time. Golden State Warriors at number 10. Sacramento Kings at number 9. New York Knicks at number 8. Phoenix Suns at number 7. Cleveland Cavs at number 6. Memphis Grizzlies at number 5. Philadelphia 76ers at number 4. Denver Nuggets at 3. Boston Celtics at 2. Milwaukee Bucks at 1. Those are going to be your top 10, with Dallas and Miami Heat just missing the top 10. Dallas right now 33-31, 7th seed in the West. Miami 33-30. They are also the 7th seed in the East. Nonetheless, Dallas, I do feel like they're close. We saw it last night, a glimpse of what that team can do when Kyrie and Luka are on the court and in sync. That being said, that's a great transition point to move into the Dallas Mavericks conversation. Are the Dallas Mavericks legitimate contenders? We saw it last night. It makes them look like contenders, right? They played lights out. They scored 133 points. Let's look at the numbers. 33-31, as I mentioned. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They're 4-4 since, 4-5 since Kyrie arrived. 2-5 with Kyrie and Luka playing. Kyrie, while on the Mavericks, has averaged 26.6 points per game, 6.8 assists per game, 5 rebounds. He's shooting 52% from the field, 43% from the three-point line in just the 9 games that he's played with them. And then Luka Doncic, in the games that he has played with Kyrie, I believe it's been 7 games so far. He has averaged 32.5 points per game, 8.2 rebounds per game, 7.3 assists per game, 53% from the field he's shooting, 37% from the three-point line. So Luka's numbers aren't dropping much. If anything, they're getting better with Kyrie there. Same with Kyrie. His numbers aren't going down. They're going up. They're playing good basketball. They're averaging 123 points per game. They're shooting 50% from the field as a whole, shooting 43% from the three-point line as a whole. And opponents' points per game, they're giving up 119 points per game with Kyrie on the unit. What I would say about this Dallas Mavericks team, they have what I would call a puncher's chance. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. But what I mean is, if they get hot at the right time in the playoffs, they can be unstoppable. You saw it last night when Kyrie and Luka are shooting the ball like that from the three-point line. There's literally nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. You throw in a Reggie Bullock, 5 for 10 from the three-point line. You throw in a Maxi Kleber, 2 threes. You throw in a Christian Wood, 2 threes. Tim Hardaway Jr., 3 threes. All of a sudden, you have 25 threes, and this team's shooting the lights out, and you don't know what to do. They can score the basketball. That works sometimes. My worry, my concern is the defensive end of the ball. They will not hit 20-plus threes every single night. They will not hit 20-plus threes on the road. Once you get to the playoffs, everything is matchup based. There are going to be teams that can take advantage of a Kyrie and Luka backcourt. We know they're not the best defenders. Kyrie can be a good defender when he tries. Luka, we know he's similar to James Harden. Quick hands, but slow feet. But nonetheless, that's my concern. Can they stop? Can they get stops? You saw it last night. They're up by 25 at one point. Luka goes and sits down for like 5 minutes. The game is within 4 to 6 points. I can't remember how low they actually cut it. But nonetheless, Luka sits for 5 minutes and boom, that lead is gone. Similar to Embiid on the Sixers. The other thing that I would say is, everything's great right now because guys are hitting their three-pointers. Guys are hitting their shots. When those shots aren't falling for Luka, is he going to be okay splitting the ball 50-50 with Kyrie? Splitting the ball 60-40 with Kyrie? How does that look? Is it okay when one of them is off? We'll see. Like I said, I think the Dallas Mavericks have a puncher's chance winning the NBA title, getting to the NBA Finals, winning the Western Conference. But I would not put them as a favorite. I wouldn't even put them as a legitimate contender. I wouldn't put them in that upper tier of contenders in the NBA. Even in tier 2, I don't see them there. Obviously, they're not in my top 10 power rankings because ultimately you have to defend the ball. You have to defend, right, in order to win championships. As we know, defense wins championships. The next thing I wanted to focus on, moving on from the Dallas Mavericks, Kevin Durant, right? We talked about the Mavs in the West. Well, Kevin Durant's in the West as well. He's back in the West on the Phoenix Suns. In his debut versus the Charlotte Hornets the other night, the Suns got a win. KD debuted with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He was a plus 13 and plus minus. So overall, just a completely positive impact. 10 for 15 from the field, 2 for 4 from the three-point line in 27 minutes. He was efficient, shot 50% from the three-point line, made more than half of his shots, 2/3 of his shots to be specific, from the field, so shot around 67% there. I think this is just a glimpse. I think this is just a glimpse of what the Suns will look like with the addition of Kevin Durant. You look at Devin Booker the other night in KD's debut. He had 37 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 15 for 26 from the field. So you kind of see the difference for Devin Booker. Maybe that's just a good night for him, but he gets a lot. He's going to get a lot more easy, open looks with Kevin Durant being in that union. Kevin Durant obviously draws a lot of attention. He's going to draw double teams, triple teams at times, which is going to open up doors for DeAndre Ayton. It's going to open up doors for Devin Booker that he's just usually not used to. I love this. I already mentioned I think they're going to be a juggernaut in the West. I think they have a great potential to win the West. Wouldn't make them my favorites right now, but I have a feeling by the end of the season, once I get to watch them a little bit more, they will be the favorite in the West. Comment in here. What's up, Chile? Thanks for checking in, brother. I appreciate you. Hope you weren't too hurt last night, man. Take it for what it is. 25 three-pointers. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Definitely share them there, Chile, if you're still here. 25 three-pointers. There's not much you can do about that on the road, honestly, but would like to see the effort from the beginning of the game. I will say that. Fourth quarter, they turn it up. They play defense. They were able to get back in the game. Got to do that for a full 4 quarters, but you'll see that time to time throughout the regular season. I think a lot of people are overreacting right now with the Sixers. Nonetheless, KD's debut, I think they end up as the favorite in the West by the end of the regular season as we go into the postseason. Last thing I want to talk about before I get to tonight's slate, before I get to best bet picks, I want to talk about Tyronn Lue and the LA Clippers and what needs to happen for them. Yeah, this right here. That's a guy, man. I've talked a lot of shit on Kyrie, and, a lot of it has to do with his off-the-court stuff. It's definitely not with what he does on the court. I'm a Duke fan as well. It's, kind of ridiculous for me to shit on Kyrie from time to time. But it's just the fact that he's played for the Nets, man, and I hated the Nets. We traded Ben Simmons there. I hated the Nets even more. Now it's all good. He plays on the Dallas Mavericks. We're only going to play him 2 times a year for the most part. But he does. He cooks us every single time. DeAnthony Melton, I thought was a good defender until he plays against Kyrie, but Kyrie will make a lot of people look like that. Let's see here. He came back at the end, and the Mavs were shooting insane. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's hurt more by the Miami and Boston loss. Yeah, same. Literally same. Mind you, I was a lot more confident going into the game against Dallas last night for some reason. I didn't understand why the Sixers were underdogs, but looking back on it, Mavericks shoot the ball way better at home. Sixers were on the tail end of a back-to-back. It's whatever at the end of the day. If you look at our big three, they played really well. Harden, Maxey, and Embiid, they did their thing. There's not much more that you would ask from them other than looking across the court and seeing Kyrie and Luka with 40 each. But yeah, I was more hurt by the Celtics loss. Obviously, Jason Tatum hitting the game winner, and then, against Miami, Harden misses a game winner. So you have completely opposite ends of the Richter scale, but nonetheless, all disappointment for the Sixers. I've seen him live a ton over the past years. He's so unbelievable against us. Seen him live against us. He's a magnificent player to watch. I got a chance to watch him when he was at Duke, man, in person, and it was insane, some of the shit that he did in college even. So I can only imagine what it looks like now as he's in the NBA and had the time to really round off his game. Sixers need to stop helping off of every perimeter player. God, say it. Say it louder. God, why does Embiid do that so often? And that's the crutch, man. It's the stretch big. We see it with Milwaukee. We see it with Boston every single time, man. They throw Al Horford over in that corner. They throw Brook Lopez over in the corner. And then last night you saw it with Maxi Kleber and Christian Wood. They throw him out on the perimeter. Embiid has to play on pick and rolls. They involve him in the pick and roll. And guys are just getting wide open threes. Stretch bigs, it's my biggest concern going into the playoffs. It's why I have to question, can you win with a center as your focal point? Because in reality, when you have a stretch big out there, it would be better to have a player that can get out there faster, right? So I don't know. It's a tough conversation. I'm going to save that combo for the end of the season. If the Sixers do get bounced in the first or second round, we'll definitely have that combo. It was cute last season and at the beginning of the season, but it's got to stop. Yeah. Simply put. 4 players collapsed on Cody Selden. That makes sense, dude. What's he going to do driving to the lane? Jesus. Yeah, it's tough. I want to talk about the LA Clippers, though, just briefly here. Tyronn Lue. I haven't heard a lot of talk about him being on the hot seat. I think he absolutely has to be on the hot seat right now. You look at the LA Clippers right now, they are currently the 7 seed in the Western Conference. They're 33-32 currently. Just recently, they have lost 4 straight. So they've lost their last 4 games. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They're 24th in points per game. They're 15th in rebounds per game, 25th in assists per game. They're 11th in opponents' points per game. Not top 10 in anything, right? They're bottom half of the league in points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. So they're just not doing a lot well. They're not doing a lot well. Let me ask you this, Chile. Do you think that Russell Westbrook is better than Reggie Jackson for the Clippers? I'm just curious. I'm really curious here. Do you think Russell Westbrook is better than Reggie Jackson for the Clippers? I'm not even talking about John Wall. Obviously, they traded John Wall to Houston or something. He gets, released and waived to free agency. Obviously, that wasn't a good fit. So then you bring in Russell Westbrook, who is maybe a little bit better of a version than John Wall. I don't know. You can decipher there, digress. Reggie Jackson seems to be the best fitting player out of all 3 of those guys. And they traded him to Denver for Mason Plumlee. I mean, make that make sense. I don't know. I don't know why they would do that, but I'm looking at Tyronn Lue. I'm looking at Kawhi. I'm looking at PG-13, who have been there for years now. And it seems that we continue to get the same results. For instance, last night against the Warriors, how is your best player a -24? How is Kawhi leading the team? Shouldn't say leading the team. He was the lowest factor in the game at -24 for the LA Clippers. Paul George, 3 for 15 from the field. We know just a couple of games ago, I believe it was against the Kings in that overtime game, he turns the ball over inexplicably at the end of the game multiple times. These meltdowns are just ridiculous. I don't understand. Like, there's so much talent on this team. Even with the Russell Westbrook weird-ass fit, there's still so much talent on this team. Hey, you see where I'm going with this. Chile, lobbying. Let's get Tyronn Lue out of L.A., man. He's not doing it there. Let's get him over to Philly, where he's pretty well known. He's pretty well known in Philly. He's in a lot of pictures that Philly fans have in their setup. So let's get Tyronn Lue. Nothing can be worse. I know my buddy Phil, Beard of Knowledge, he put out a post from years back when Doc Rivers got first hired. Said, would it be better if, say, Billy Donovan, Tyronn Lue, and somebody else gets named head coach? And I looked at it and I was just like, looking back on these last couple of years with Doc Rivers, I don't think that the Sixers could have performed worse. Like, yeah, they got the 1 seed when they lost to the Hawks in the second round, but that's just it. They got the 1 seed and then lost to the Hawks in the second round. That's the worst case scenario of that playoffs. It's not. They could have lost in the first round, but that's not the point. You were supposed to be a championship contender that season. Instead, we had to watch the Atlanta Hawks. We see what they look like now. We had to watch the Atlanta Hawks go to the Eastern Conference Finals instead of us. Then you get to last season. Could it have gone worse? It couldn't have. Second round exit, same thing. It couldn't have. It could have, but I don't think it would have been worse if we had any of those coaches as head coach. If anything, it would be a little bit better, I would imagine. But yeah, Tyronn Lue, in all serious speaking, Tyronn Lue has to be on the hot seat. You're talking about Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Bones Highland, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, Zubac, Robert, just so on and so forth. They're 7th in the Western Conference right now, and they're 1 loss away from being 10th and out of the play-in tournament. So this is what we're looking at for the LA Clippers. If they don't make the play, if they don't get the 6th seed, that is embarrassing. That is embarrassing, and Tyronn Lue has to go, man. This is a team that we talked about being capable of winning the NBA championship. They got to make the play-in tournament first. Yeah. That's all I got for the Clippers. That's all I got for the Mavs. That's all I got for the Phoenix Suns. Nonetheless, the Western Conference is heating up. That is a tight race over there. In the East, it's fairly tight. Now, there is some separation between 1, 2, and then 3. Obviously, the Sixers are 5 games back of the Boston Celtics, who are a half a game back of the Bucks at the top of the East. So things are getting tight. We're getting closer to the postseason. Things are getting exciting. We're going to get into picks of the night here. Get my game slate pulled up. So we got, 10 games here? Yeah, 10 game slate. Nice packed Friday slate. So first game on the list here, we have the Magic visiting the Charlotte Hornets. Orlando is a 3.5-point favorite in this one. Obviously, LaMelo Ball disappointingly fractured his ankle the other night, so he will not be available. Mind you, LaMelo Ball is an interesting player to watch play. I actually find him very exciting. I wish he wasn't on the Hornets. It's such a bad team, but he's an exciting player. It sucks to see him injured out for the rest of the season. I'm going with the Magic nonetheless in this one. I think the Magic have been playing much, much better ball in the second half of the season. 26-37 currently. Obviously, Paolo's leading the way for Rookie of the Year. I think he's running away with that at this point. I'm going to go with the Magic in this one. I think they're just a lot better setup. They're a better team right now. And that's a team to watch out for the future. Watch out for them in the play-in tournament next year. We're looking at the Blazers at the Hawks. Got Chile's picks. Let's see if you got the same picks as me. So we got a few different ones here. I'll let you know as we go through the slate here. I do like your picks, though. We got very similar picks. I think there's just 2 that are off, that are different. We got the Blazers at the Hawks. Trae Young is probable for this game. Anthony Simons is questionable for the Simons, is questionable for this game. Atlanta's an 8-point favorite at home. I'm going to go with the Hawks in this one. So there's one where we differ. Chile, I'm going to go with the Hawks in this one. We got the Blazers on the road. They're playing early. Obviously, Dame's been playing lights out of late. But I'm going to go with the Hawks. Trae Young at home with this one. New coach, Quinn Snyder, that is. Next, we got the Nets at the Celtics. I'm going to go with the Celtics in this one. Boston's 11-point favorite. They're at home. I believe the Nets have lost 4 straight of late. So I'm going to go with the Celtics easily in that one. Knicks and Heat, that should be a good one down in Miami. New York is actually a 3.5-point favorite in that one. I'm with you, Chile. I'm going with the Knicks in this one. They are playing on fire. They've won 7 games in a row. Jalen Brunson playing out of his mind. You'll see him featured in Best Bets later. But nonetheless, I'm going with the Knicks over the Heat in Miami. Just a better team right now, in my opinion. Next, we have the Suns at Bulls. This is going to be KD's second game with Phoenix. Phoenix is a 3.5-point favorite. I think that's very interesting that they're only 3.5-point favorites. I get it. They're going to have to figure some things out. But would I only make them 3.5? I don't know. I think they're much, much better than the Chicago Bulls. We'll see how it works out for them nonetheless. I'm going with the Phoenix Suns. Once again, KD added to the mix. He will play tonight. They're minus 165 to win this game. Could honestly put that on the best bet slate. I'm going to lay it for sure. You could put that on the best bet slate with those type of odds. Even the Knicks, minus 150. I like those odds as well. 3-point favorites against the Heat. Nonetheless, I'm going with the Suns in that one. Next, we have the Jazz at the Thunder. This one's tough for me. 1-point favorite for OKC. I am going to go with OKC in this one, but it is a toss-up. I would say that's 50-50. OKC's been playing up and down. Both of these teams trying to get into the play-in tournament and beat out the Lakers. I would say a must-win game for both of these teams if they want to try to make the play-in tournament. But I'm going to go with OKC. They have the worst record. They need it more. And I do like their young talent a little bit more than the Utah Jazzes. Next, we have the Grizzlies at the Nuggets. Denver's a 5-point favorite in this one. Let me double-check on that, Chile, because I was not aware if SGA is out. Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's see here. You are correct. Shy is out. He's out tonight. So makes it even tight. I was under the impression that he was playing. Chile, it's a good call out there. Yeah, definitely a toss-up. I may even lean Jazz way in this one. Don't get me wrong. I like Jalen Williams, the one with the little twisty in the front. I really like him. He's put up some good numbers this year, but I think I'm going to flip to the Jazz in that one. No SGA. That doesn't sit well with me. Jazz need to win just as much as OKC does. It is in Oklahoma City, so we'll see how that goes. That is a bit of a toss-up, I would say. Next, we got the Grizzlies at Nuggets. Nuggets are 5-point favorites at home. This one is another one that I think could end up close. Grizzlies playing with a chip on their shoulder. They haven't played great basketball of late. With them currently 6-4 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row, so they're playing all right. Denver's on a 2-game winning streak, 7-3 in their last 10. Should be a good matchup tonight. I'm going to go against you in this one, Chile. I'm going to pick the Grizzlies to beat the Nuggets tonight. I'm interested to see how it goes, though. I'm going out on a limb there. Next, we have the Pelicans at Warriors. Obviously, the Warriors are on the tail end of a back-to-back, but they are 5-point favorites at home against the Pels. I'm going to go with the Pelicans in this one. Now, mind you, let me check the injury report. Yeah. Okay, Brandon Ingram's in. I just had to make sure. I was wondering why the spread was sitting that way because I still feel like the Pelicans play everybody tough. They were able to beat the Blazers the other night with no Zion, of course. The Blazers had everybody they needed. They were able to come away with a win on the road. I think they can do something similar tonight against the Warriors. They're coming off a big win against the Clippers last night. Jordan Poole went off. Tail end of a back-to-back. I'm going with the Pelicans. Yeah, it's a tough one, though. I will say that. No Steph on the Warriors side, no Zion on the Pels side. Kind of an even matchup in a sense, but they are in Golden State. Next, we got the Clippers at the Kings. I'll let you know right now. You see how I talked about the Clippers earlier? I'm going with the Kings in this one. Kings are hot right now. How many wins in a row for the Kings? 4 wins in a row right now. They're 7-3 in their last 10. This is the best scoring team in the NBA. I don't think the Clippers are going to be able to keep up. We saw it the other night. They went at it, right? They went back and forth in that game. I believe it went into overtime, but You saw Paul George crumble at the end, turn the ball over in ridiculous circumstances. I just trust the Kings a little bit more than the Clippers right now. Clippers have lost 4 straight. Kings have won 4 straight. Kings are at home. I'm going to take the Sacramento Kings right now, ride that hot hand. Finally, we have the Timberwolves at the Lakers. Minnesota is a 1-point favorite on the road in this one. This is another toss-up, in my opinion. I know Chile, he went T-Wolves in this one. Mike Conley, he's played pretty well so far with the T-Wolves. No Cat in this one. Let's check the Lakers injury report. AD playing? Probable. AD's probable. LeBron's out. D'Angelo Russell's out. What's T-Wolves looking like? No. Noel Towns out, obviously. Ant Edwards. I'm going to go with you, Chile. I think you convinced me here. I'm going to go with the T-Wolves. I like Ant Edwards in this one. AD playing makes it interesting. If he doesn't play, I would definitely go with the T-Wolves. But on the road in LA, Lakers do need wins, but so do the T-Wolves. They got to stay afloat in the West as well. I like Ant Edwards to go off in LA tonight. I like that. So just to go over the slate one more time, I got Magic against the Hornets. I'm going with the Magic. I got the Hawks in the matchup against the Blazers. I have the Celtics in the matchup with the Nets. I have the Knicks in the matchup with the Heat. I have the Suns against the Bulls. I have the Jazz against the Thunder in OKC. I have the Grizzlies upsetting the Nuggets. I have the Pelicans upsetting the Warriors. I have the Kings taking care of business at home against the Clippers. And then finally, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves getting a win on the road against the Lakers. Hopefully, Ant Edwards has a big night and proves me and Chile right, nonetheless. Finally, last segment of the show. We went over an hour. I don't even mind. I had so much to get off my chest. That is why I'm doing 2 shows a week from here on out, because I don't want to have over an hour and a half shows just to get all my thoughts out there. I need to spread it out and get it to you guys in little bits and pieces, not take up hours of your day. So we got best bets of the night tonight. I got 3 plays for you guys. Let's hope to get in the green. First one being KD, Kevin Durant. I was about to say Kevin Durant wanted to switch to KD at the same. Whoa. You got me hip, Chile. I did not know Tyrese Maxey had a pod. It's his podcast. Confirm that for me. Let me know where I can find that as well. I'm definitely checking that out. I'm giving my dog a bath after this show, so I'll listen to it after while I'm giving him a bath if it's out already. But yeah, I'm definitely checking that out, brother. Thanks for letting me know. Let me know where we find that at as well, if you can. I'm going with KD over 5.5 rebounds, plus 115. He had 6 in his debut against the Charlotte Hornets. He averages 6.7 rebounds per game. The main thing with this play, I look at it as KD, what can he do to add to the Phoenix Suns, right? Just aside from scoring, what can KD, Rocket, if you could quiet down. What can KD give to the Suns aside from scoring? I think he can affect this team on the defensive end. I think he can help on the boards. And I think he does that. I think he asserts himself in other areas of the game. He's always going to be able to score. He's arguably the best scorer of all time. But I do think he's going to try to implement himself in other areas of the game for this team, because we know Devin Booker can score. DeAndre Ayton has his nights. So there's other ways where KD can help out. And he averages 6.7 rebounds a game, almost 7 rebounds a game. No reason he shouldn't be able to grab that against the Chicago Bulls tonight. Plus 115. I love those odds. KD coming back off the injury. I think that's why you see that in plus territory, but I like him to get that easily. I also like Jalen Brunson over 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists against the Heat tonight at minus 110. Jalen Brunson has been playing out of his mind. Now, mind you, his last game, 39 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists in that matchup. Not saying he's going to have some explosion like that where he gets this number just in points. But I do think he's going to cover the entire box score tonight, because he does a lot of everything for this New York Knicks team. And I think going against the Miami Heat, who host the best defense in the NBA statistically, he's going to have to implement himself and do everything he can for the Knicks to get this win tonight. And I do think they win tonight. Jalen Brunson over 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists at -110. And then we're going with a points, rebounds, and assists play again. I'm going to go with Nikola Jokic over 46.5 points, rebounds, and assists at -135. He's had back-to-back triple-double games, so he's filling the box sheet. I think this is going to be a highly competitive game where we're going to see him throughout the game. There's not going to be a bunch of resting for Nikola Jokic tonight. I think he's going to have to play, and when he plays, he fills the box score. According to Kendrick Perkins, he pads his stats, so go ahead and do it tonight for our play here. Nikola Jokic over 46.5 points, rebounds, and assists going up against the Memphis Grizzlies. These are my plays of the night. Let's see some green. Let's cash some tickets. I love these plays. It's just him. Yeah, I'm going to check Twitter after this, man, and I'm going to have to give that a listen if it's out already. That's exciting. That's definitely one of the players that I would love to hear their thoughts on everything. I would love to hear what their thoughts around the NBA and just his thoughts on the Sixers as a whole, what goes on in that locker room and everything. So it'll be interesting. And if he's doing his own thing, it means he'll get some other Sixers on there as well. So I'm interested to see who he's going to want to bring on to his pod, who he'll be interviewing, and what he's going to talk about, because he's an interesting, lighthearted, very I like to call him the ray of sunshine in Philly. He's just a very positive influence on the city of Philadelphia and brings really nothing but good things. That's why I hated seeing him in the little slump that he was in. But guys, that's going to be it for this episode. I'm well over an hour. We're at an hour and 8 minute mark here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments, especially you, Chile, my viewer from earlier, talking about EuroLeague ball. Definitely feel free to tune in every time you can present these comments. Get me hip, man. Tell me where I can watch, when to watch these games that are going on. And I will definitely check it out just so I can get get some better knowledge of international basketball. That's something I really want to ingrain myself in a whole lot in the next year or so. So getting my reins in on international football, right? I've fallen in love with the Premier League. To be clear, I never watched soccer much. I've fallen in love with the Premier League. I've fallen in love with Bundesliga. I've fallen in love with League One. I've fallen in love with Serie A, the Italian league. So I'm getting my full dose of soccer in. After this, I believe the Napoli game is on right now. Started at 3, so I'm going to see if my man Victor Osimhen has cashed a ticket for me. I laid him for an anytime goal scorer. So, guys, I'm getting out of here. Have a great rest of your Friday. I'll be back tomorrow to preview this Bucks game. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be doing it. It's most likely going to be earlier in the day, but catch it anytime on DSM Media. Just make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where it will be streamed exclusively. But guys, have a great rest of your night. Let's cash some tickets. Have a great night. No stress, no Sixers, no problem. Have a great rest of your evening, guys. Happy Friday. Thank God. Peace.